Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Fallout Bar, week number 5 of the 2023 PDC Premier League. This week we were in Exeter as the players make their way down towards Minehead for the UK Open starting tomorrow morning. As you can see, it is just myself this evening. The rest of the team are all otherwise occupied. We've got internet troubles. We've got 2 down with COVID. We've got 1 in Exeter. We've got 1 already at Minehead. So it's just me to talk you through tonight's action. So probably a little bit of a shorter show. Maybe a little less knowledge for me to give you all an insight from this evening. But it is just myself talking to you guys this evening as we do run back through night number 5 of the Premier League. Good evening to everybody that's already in the chat room. Bob's in. How we doing, buddy? Finney's in. Matthew's in as always. Sean Lyne's in. Team MVG. Evening, Paddy. How we doing? I mean, everybody knows my thoughts and feelings on the Premier League, but Paddy says, Finney says, can't see Sky continuing back this Premier League format. Might be okay for fans in stadium, but it's so boring week in, week out watching on TV. I think a lot of people are cutting on to that right now and are coming up with a similar answer or a similar decision that actually it is getting that little bit repetitive. Part of the allure of the Premier League in its heyday was that these players played each other so rare that Phil Taylor could play Barney once, maybe twice in a campaign, and we might only see that twice more in a season. The creation of the World Series means that these guys are matching up far more often, plus obviously good form in the majors and elsewhere, and the availability. Look, we stream Pro Tours now, we see these guys playing on the floor. You go back 6, 7, 8 years ago, the only way you knew a Pro Tour result was if you followed certain people on Twitter. It wasn't that big a deal. So look, technology has made that darts that much more available to people now that perhaps we're seeing these matchups more frequently. But I guess that's where we stand. Elle says, I don't mind the format, Finney, but it's silly. It's only on Sky to get a lot more viewers if it was on other platforms as well. Had Sky, but you have it 18 months and they triple the price. I'm not getting into that debate because I'm going to be completely honest with you all. I don't pay for Sky. So you can guess how I watch all of my darts considering the job that I do. But yeah, don't tell anybody. Right, let's look back at tonight's action. I'll get you guys involved as much as possible tonight because obviously it is just me talking to you at a screen. So yeah, the more you guys get involved tonight, the better and the easier it will help this flow throughout the evening. We start with a rematch of last week's final, Michael van Gerwen against Gerwen Price. And you could be... Look, there's a couple of talking points here. First of all, it's the fact that Michael van Gerwen was something like 1 from 16 in his first attempts at a double, and then he reeled off the next 5 straight. Gerwen Price leading this match early on. It wasn't the same Van Gerwen and the calmness and the ability that we've seen from him on the outer ring recently, but it does highlight the fact that it isn't the Van Gerwen of 2016, 2017, who was ridiculous at all times. There is still that susceptibility on the outer ring, I think, from Michael van Gerwen, and the opening stages of this match just showed us that 28.6% on the doubles. I mean, despite that, he's averaged 96 and defeated Gerwen Price 6-3, chucked in 2 maximums for good measure. So look, it's a steady performance from Van Gerwen. He opened up chances against himself. He offered up chances against himself early on against Gerwen Price, who did not expect to play at this level. Didn't even make the 90 average mark, 89.1. But the talking point, as ever, does come from Gerwen Price's Instagram. And normally I give him a little bit of a stick for that. But before tonight had even got underway, we had a message from Phil going, it's absolutely freezing here. The players are going to hate it. Tonight could be a disaster. And it seemed to me that all the players up on stage were struggling with the temperature of the West Point. Now, as a spectacle, as a venue to go to, it is the complete opposite end of new modern arenas and if you compare it to like the Tottenham Hotspur football stadium, for instance, this is at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. It is basically just a large exhibition shed on a farm. And because of that, it's not the best insulated. It's not the best prepared. It acts as a events venue, but actually it's not specifically set up for that by the looks of things. So because of that, it is vulnerable to the cold and the temperatures and everything else that goes along with it. And tonight it is. We're still in that part of the year where it's still pretty chilly here in the UK. And that seemed to have affected the games. Yeah, Price was on his Instagram saying positive reaction from the crowd tonight for Gerwen Price, apart from the walk-on. But I think those pantomime boos are to be expected a little bit from him nowadays. However, as professionals, we shouldn't have to play in those conditions, I think was the line. So that's certainly something there to be asked about, especially if we get a chance to speak to him at some point in Minehead. I mean, it's not as bad as the beast from the east snowstorm that nearly put an end to the UK Open. It did put an end to the UK Open for spectators just a few years ago. We had Robert Owen on the show on Monday night, and he was one of the players that went all the way to the semi-final that year. But yeah, hopefully some smoother weather ahead in some more modern venues coming up for some of these guys. On to match number 2, and Nathan Aspinall getting the better of Michael Smith in this one. All the talk in this ahead of the match was around Michael Smith's wrist injury. Seemed to really be plaguing him on the Euro Tour this weekend. Started brightly, I thought. Found his way nicely into the match, but just 3 from 10 on the outer ring, just offering up chances to Nathan Aspinall, who is... The biggest compliment I can play Nathan Aspinall is he's almost a modern-day James Wade. He loves a scrap, and every single time you offer something up against him, he is going to gobble it up. That's why he's in third place right now, because players aren't consistently rocking up, throwing in the ton plus against him and sticking it to him. He's there, he's scrapping, he's battling away. And at some point, that attribute and that way of describing Nathan Aspinall might start to irritate some people, but as long as he keeps picking up games and picking up points and winning, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy with that to end his career in that regard. So fair play to Nathan Aspinall. Solid performance from him in taking down Michael Smith, including 6 180s from the Asp. Scoring power was definitely there. That 140 checkout was absolutely delightful as well. 66% on the outer ring in the end, as that was the top half. Interesting, before tonight got underway, actually, the way the fixtures played out, that the top half of the table before play got underway, was these first 2 matches. So the top half of the draw. So they were completely separated from each other, meaning there was a good chance for some movement from players in the bottom half. We'll get onto that bit in a little while. Evening, Craig. How are we doing, buddy? Good to see you, mate. How did you enjoy? Were you up in Scotland the other week at the event? I can't remember which one it was. Aberdeen? Was it Glasgow? I'm sure it was Aberdeen. I lose track. It's been a busy couple of weeks. Glasgow. That's the one. On to match number 3. And as I said, it was the bottom half of the draw in this one. And this is where we find not the strugglers as such. It is still only week 5. I keep getting into that point. It is just week 5. However, you can be out the running very, very quickly in this Premier League, despite the fact you can pick up 5 points for a night win. It's very easy for you to get cut off in this format, I think, even with this league table. And Chris Dobey potentially is at risk of that. After winning the very first night on the high of being the Masters champion, he now took on Dimitri van den Bergh, suffering his 4th straight loss in this Premier League campaign. Dimitri van den Bergh averaging 104. Both players averaging 104, actually. Lovely rhythm, lovely pace to this game. Played in good spirit. Both players took in 4 180. Scoring power was pretty much matched all the way. But it is those outer ring that make the key difference once again. Dimitri van den Bergh, 50% on his doubles, included a 140 checkout, tops after neglecting to leave it in the previous checkout, which was strange from Dimitri, but he does what Dimitri does. Chris Dobey's top checkout tonight, just 40, so he's not pinned any of those combinations that might have come in handy at any point. Despite winning that first night, then Chris Dobey moves from first place in the table just 4 weeks ago all the way down to 7th. Has been caught by a few more players in the field this evening. And we managed to catch up with Chris Dobey after his loss this evening.
It can, but I said in previous interviews, the game where I felt I threw away against Rob Cross at the match play, I think that's turned my motivation to get my game where it should be. And like I said, the games I'm playing now and losing, there's nothing wrong with that. It's only a matter of time before these losers turn into wins, and I believe that I can turn this around and hopefully get some wins under my belt.
Big words from Chris Dobey in his first Premier League campaign. It will be a tough test for him to correct this slide right now, but the sooner he gets back to winning ways, the more chance he's got of making this a successful campaign for Hollywood. On to the final quarter-final of tonight then, and it was a battle at the bottom before play got underway. Johnny Clayton and Peter Wright started as 7th and 8th place in the table before play got underway. Peter Wright obviously winless ahead of tonight. Johnny Clayton just picking up 2 first-round wins in the first 4 weeks. And it's fair to say this match was scrappy. It was played by 2 players at that point who pretty much knew that they were at the bottom and that this was a big chance for them and that they were in a part of the draw that also had the other players from the bottom half of the draw. And there was a lot on the line for these two. Johnny Clayton is not used to being in this position in the Premier League, despite the fact he's only been here in 2 other attempts. And Peter Wright's Premier League record is not great, but he would have been in this position before, and he's got plenty of experience to have overcome this. And it just felt like this match got away from both, and they both offered up chances. Neither really scored great, and neither player at 180. So that tells you everything you need to know about this at this level. 8-9 average plays, 92, 5 from 10 and 6 from 10 on the finishing. Not dreadful, but it's a little bit weird for Peter right now, who is winless in 5, and his next 2 matches are against Gerwen Price and then Michael van Gerwen, or his next 2 quarterfinals are Gerwen Price and then van Gerwen. Obviously, if he wins either of them, that will change. There's a very, very real chance of Peter right now that come week 8, the halfway point, he is winless. Which, for a player of a 2-time world champions caliber who is throwing a straight set of darts every week, they look comfortable in his hand. There's been one set I don't think I liked, and you could tell they were weighted slightly different on the release. But other than that, he's thrown a consistent shaped barrel. He's looked pretty good at times. He's now winless in 5. The 2 games he's come closest to winning at any point, he's played the worst in. His best performances have been when he's been absolutely blown away by people. It's one of them where it's just not clicking at the right time for Peter Wright right now. However, if it doesn't start to click for him at the right time, he will be cut adrift. There's no relegation in this format anymore. There's no Judgment Night week 10 or anything like that. So he's going to be here for the entire campaign. But if it doesn't start clicking soon and you just start to focus on that league table and how far behind you are for everyone else, this becomes an even bigger task for Peter Wright just to keep himself motivated for 17 weeks. He's got another 12 weeks of this. And the longer he goes winless, the more that will pressure people. We saw the pressure it got. We saw how much the pressure got to Michael Smith last year, being the only player that hadn't won a night. We're talking about winning a game. And that's a massive, massive difference here. Look, Peter Wright will absolutely not panic. He's far too good for that, far too experienced for that. But he needs to rest this pretty quickly. And what better way to do that than next week, sending out a message to one of the perceived big 2 in the game right now. El says, yeah, Wright has been unlucky. To be fair, if you look back at the matches and his opponents and the way it's played out, every time he's played well, his opponents play well. Every time he's played badly, and he's had a chance, they've gone scrappy games, hasn't quite played out for him. Preston's in. He says, hey, God, late again. I feel for Peter not doing much wrong, just not getting the breaks. Yeah, as we're saying, look, there's been chances the last couple of weeks for Peter Wright, but it is about converting those chances. And the longer that he doesn't convert a chance, the more difficult it becomes to do so in this environment, despite, once again, all of his experience. We move on to the semi-finals, and we start with Michael van Gerwen producing another 100 average. The man is on absolute fire right now in a 6-4 victory over Nathan Aspinall. Again, just 6 from 16 on the outer ring from Michael van Gerwen, which again shows that you can get to him. He is heading into the UK Open. Spoiler alert, with the table in front of you and everything else. If you're watching this, you clearly know what's happened anyway. He's heading into the UK Open on back-to-back Premier League night wins. We haven't seen that sort of confidence and form from Van Gerwen from a Premier League campaign into a UK Open for a long, long time. Yet there are still chances to get him here. And he needs to shut that off very, very quickly this weekend, because it's not just the Premier League 7 or 8. There are people that have been left out of the Premier League that will have a point to prove. There are people that want to start putting their name in the hat for next year. There are players that are improving their form constantly. You've got new tour card holders eager to show what they can do, all up on that big stage. Because let's be honest, Van Gerwen is main stage. Every single round that he gets drawn out against, he is main stage. So he's going to have a big target on his back this weekend. Look, we all know what the quotes will be when I play you the video inevitably. If I play my best, they can't beat me. I'm not at that. I suspect that's what he's going to say. It's just a short clip that we've got for the end of the night. But that's sort of the boyish Van Gerwen we've known to expect now. That he was saying that when he was struggling. And there is that added bonus that he's earned 20 grand in 2 weeks. Bonuses, 20 grand in bonuses. Cal says, enjoyed tonight. Dimmy's 140 finished the highlight of the night for me. Feels like the middle of the table is going to finish super close this year too, which is exciting. I agree with you there. A little bit concerned Van Gerwen absolutely runs away with this, and we might see a second person break the lines. But actually, the top 6 as they sit right now, I think are going to be very, very close to that 2 to 4 position. I want to see more from Dobey before I put him in that category. And if Peter Wright doesn't win next week, I'm almost ruling him out before we're halfway in the season. But I definitely agree with that point, that those rest of the positions are going to be very up for grabs right now. A word on Nathan Aspinall. Just accumulating points nicely. 5 matches won, 9 points, yet to win a night. Will he get over the line? Will he take 3 chances in the same evening is a question to be answered. Still got 12 weeks before we hit the finals night. If he's there to go out and get that win, plenty of time to get that on the board. The positive, his scoring power looks really good again. 180s, 2 in this match against Van Gerwen. There was 6 in that match against Michael Smith. Just needs to keep doing more of that. I think more of that, and he needs to find that second gear when he's up against it, when his back's up against the wall, when he's got a chance or a match there for taking, or when he's got his opponent bang under it. He needs to keep going. He needs to keep that foot on the back of the neck, and he needs to hammer it home against his opponent. You can't be letting people back into matches or making it tighter, because it will take some out of you eventually. There's only so much battling you can do for your entire career. It becomes draining. It becomes difficult to concentrate or focus or get going again. And that's the next step for Nathan Aspinall for me right now. And he 3rd place, terrific Premier League record for a player that's won two majors. Premier League record is fantastic. It's right up there with Johnny Clayton's and Glenn Durrant's when before Dozer had his drop off in form. Superb Premier League record. It's just, can he maintain that once again? On to the second semi-final. And again, this one just felt that little bit scrappy. Johnny Clayton 6, Dimitri van den Bergh 2. Clinic in closing out chances, 54% on the checkouts from Johnny Clayton. Really turned on the 1-1-6 he took out. I think Dimi was threatening to start mounting a comeback at 3-2 and 4-2. That 1-1-6 really just kept Dimi at arm's length for the rest of the match. Played again at a lovely pace. It really is worth noting that Dimitri van den Bergh's style is so much more watchable right now. I'm a player that's criticised him heavily in the past on being difficult to watch with the big pauses and the setting the darts and everything. It wasn't even when he was at the hockey. It was everything else that was going on around that. And he is so much more watchable right now. It's still in contention. I don't think it's hampered his form too much. You can perhaps say there's a couple of close moments where, because he's not used to just getting on with it, that it has hurt him a little bit, but he still has that in his locker to go back to in the odd moment. That's where Dimi's got to get the balance right now. Doing it once or twice in the entire match, in a key moment, stepping back, taking your time, not an issue. And I don't think it'd be an issue for anybody. It was doing it at the back end of every leg or doing it at every single moment. Cows, exactly. Glad Dimmy's out of his Super Zen era and seems to just be taking his time when he really needs to now. Nobody will begrudge that. Nobody will begrudge watching that. He's still enjoyable to watch. His scoring phase be brilliant. Gets up, rat-a-tat-tat. That makes darts so much more watchable in this era. 100%. And he's making himself so much more watchable right now. I did notice this. The dancing is the hardest part to watch. Now, look, it's part of the package. We all know what comes with Dimitri. Sky have started to cut that out earlier and earlier at the minute. And I'm not sure if that's because we're getting a walk-on in every match throughout the evening or whatever else. They're not cutting Peter Wright's party started or anything. But they are cutting Dimitri's dancing. So we'll see how that plays out in the next few weeks. With Johnny Clayton progressing into the final against Michael van Gerwen. Not the brightest from Nathan Aspinall busting his throw. Ferret maths. There was some suspect ferret maths tonight, by the way, as well. 265, and he stayed up top. Treble 20, single 20, treble 19 to leave 168. There's always going to be that part to Johnny's game, I think. The thing that concerns me about Johnny Clayton's game, despite me being very, very big on Johnny right now, I backed this exact result on Monday, by the way. If you go back and watch the live lounge, I said this would be the result. Van Gerwen will beat Johnny Clayton in the final. I'm sure I did. And I also have backed Johnny for a very, very big weekend in Minehead starting tomorrow. Clayton looked brilliant tonight at times. Scoring power was fantastic. Finishing under pressure got him out of the trouble in the Van den Bergh game. 3 from 9 on the doubles. He's finished with a similar percentage to Van Gerwen in this final. Didn't carve out enough chances. I felt like Johnny was rushing his final dart a bit tonight, and I'm not sure if anybody else saw this. Setting up at the hockey, lovely. First dart, he's got that setback. It was nice and long. The second, same again. That third dart just seemed that little bit quicker, that little bit shorter of a backswing, and that little bit snatchier of a release. And he was dragging it 41, 45. We saw it with a couple of 80s sometimes. There was just that little bit of urgency to get rid of that final dart. Now, I'm not sure if that was the temperature. I don't want to start making excuses for people, but it did feel a little bit like Johnny Clayton was rushing that final dart this evening. It's not something we're used to seeing from Johnny. So we'll see how that plays out for the weekend. But in this final, once again, Van Gerwen doing the business. After going down 3-1, he trailed 3-1 in both the quarterfinal and the semi-final, stamped out completely in this game, got into a 3-0 lead, and just kept Johnny at arm's length, I think it's fair to say, throughout the rest. Johnny threatened to get close, but it was a job done for Michael van Gerwen, who picks up back-to-back wins in the Premier League. That does take him top of the table, as you can see now, 6 points clear of Michael Smith in second. Nathan Aspinall his third would be, I think it's Knights 1 as the tiebreaker, and then it's leg difference. So Michael Smith ahead in that regard. Gerwin Price in fourth on 8 points. Dimitri van den Bergh fifth in 7 points. Johnny Clayton also on 7 points, which is semi-final, final now for Johnny Clayton after being winless in his first two. And he made a habit of just picking up points every single week in the Premier League campaign last year when he topped the table. So still plenty of time for him to get going. Chris Dobey, despite that win in night one, winless in the last 4 now on 5 points, and Peter Wright obviously still pointless throughout. Elle says, who do you have in the UK Open this weekend? I will let you know after we hear from Michael van Gerwen in his post-match press conference this evening.
Just winning it's only 6, should be more. Hope I can increase it in the next few weeks.
Does topping the table still mean something to you, or is it just about finishing in that top four?
Of course, when you do the top of the table, it's good. It's good for your confidence, good for yourself, and it means you're with the best overall. But at this moment, I don't care. I don't want to do this. I want to just get to mine as quick as possible to make sure I'm ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, I feel like tonight was another
So
step.
that's how lucky they are.
Yeah. You think it's a step in the right direction tonight, definitely?
Of course, a step in the right direction. When you win, it's always nice. And when you're not even playing your A game, it's only good, isn't it?
Exactly.
Not winning, I'm winning, but not winning with my A game. It's fantastic.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
I genuinely hadn't seen that clip before I played it to you guys. I just get fed it in the back end. Phil appears, he puts it in there for me to play to you, and then I play it out. But he pretty much said everything we expected to say. He's in a bit of a rush to get to Minehead now. That is an absolute, for want of a better word, it's a ball ache of a drive between Exeter to Minehead. Now it's just A roads. It's not very pleasant. We did it in the fog the other year. Disgusting journey. To get himself down to Minehead ahead of the UK Open this weekend that does start tomorrow morning. Quick reminder, we will be streaming our usual watch-along feature, including coverage of all the outside boards from 11 a.m. tomorrow. It'll be myself to start with. Liam's hopping on. Possibly some new blood joining the team tomorrow, and a potential return for one of the team in the evening. I have to hop off about 4 o'clock. I'm off to MC the Nottingham Varsity Darts event. And then I'm refereeing county darts all this weekend. But we will be here all day Friday and the afternoon session on Saturday for you. Bob says, will you see everyone win a night of the Premier League? I'm going to say no. I said no to start with. I think I had 6 or 7. Surprised that Dobey has picked one up this early. Rode that crest of a wave, I think. I'm not convinced by Peter Wright at the minute. And I'm not sure if Nathan Aspinall will get one. Right now, I've got Dimitri with a better chance to win one than Nathan Aspinall. I think his game's more explosive. I think Aspinall can keep accumulating points and could still make the top 4 without winning a night. But right now, I'm not going to say all 8 do, especially if Van Gerwen picks up another level. I think Gerwen Price has still got plenty to offer this field. This might be the best Premier League campaign for Gerwen Price in his career, which has been a miserable hunting ground for him as well. So we'll see how that plays out. My pick for the UK Open, I picked him on Monday. I like what I saw at times tonight. That final was a little bit sketchy. Longer format, though, chance to get into games. I've gone with Johnny Clayton to win this weekend. Obviously, a bit difficult, more difficult to predict the outcome of the UK Open with no draw bracket, redrawn every time. There's a chance that could predict Johnny and he could go and draw Van Gerwen first round again, and then we'd see Van Gerwen in the final here. We'd see Van Gerwen, Clayton in the UK Open, and then we'd see them to open next week in Liverpool, because that's exactly what will happen for the second time in a row. The final of the night we're currently discussing will be a first round match next week in the M&S Bank Arena, Liverpool. We start with Gerwen Price against Peter Wright in Liverpool next week. This is the part where you guys get involved as well. By the way, drop your score predictions in the chat. We'll get them up on the screen. I'm basically playing against you lot this week because there's no one else here for me to call out and pick. So we start with Gerwen Price against Peter Wright. Snakebite obviously still winless in 5. Gerwen Price struggled with the temperatures this evening. Traditionally quite happy hunting ground for Price in Minehead. Plays well down there, even if it's not to win titles, but does have that UK Open under his belt, I think it was. And his form the last couple of weeks has been pretty sharp compared to Peter Wright. So personally, I've got Gerwen Price to win this one 6-3. I think Gezi gets out in front, starts giving it the raw. Peter struggles that little bit more. And then the pressure of being winless in 6, Van Gerwen the following week. And actually, if he stays winless, he will be bottom come week 8 and he will play whoever's top of the table in week 8 in the first round. So there's a chance that could be Van Gerwen again. Who does he play week 9? Oh my. Peter Wright's next 4 Premier League opponents could be Gerwen Price, Michael Van Gerwen. If Van Gerwen stays top, Michael Van Gerwen, and then Gerwen Price the week after. He's got to play him back to back. What a terrible run of fixtures for Peter Wright. And then he runs into Michael Smith, the world champion. Peter Wright needs a win very, very soon, ladies and gents. But I don't think he gets it next week. I do think Gerwen Price gets the job done on Peter Wright. And I'm going to say he does it 6-3. Cal has got Price 6-4. Matthew has got Price 6-4. Also, Bob 6-4 to Gerwen Price. El says Price 6-5. Wright to be 3-1 and fluff it again. Brutal. And Ben has gone for Wright 6-2. Ben, the first man to back Wright this evening. Any more before we move on to the next match, which will be Michael van Gerwen against Johnny Clayton. As I said, a repeat of tonight's final in the quarterfinal stage next week. These two meeting in the very, very first round. Now, lots of travel to be done between now and then. Heading down to Minehead this weekend. Not sure if Van Gerwen will attempt to go home from Exeter on Sunday night or Monday to then be back in Liverpool for Wednesday for a Premier League on Thursday. If he does, fair play to him. But will that catch up with him a little bit ahead of this matchup? I'm going to say Van Gerwen edges this one again. I think it goes tight, but I'm going to say Van Gerwen wins this one 6-5. I'm going to say last leg decider. I think that the form of both players are going to keep getting better for the foreseeable, and I think they produce a better game than they did in the final this evening. But I'm still going to go with Michael van Gerwen to edge this one next week against Johnny Clayton 6-5. Chat room, what are you saying? Matthew, MVG 6-3. Cal MVG 6-4. Bob, Clayton 6-5. Like thinking on a similar wavelength. We've got it going deep. Any more for match number 2 next week predictions? Elka has got Clayton 6-4. We're split down the middle at the minute, 2 apiece. Next one in decides the fate of match number 2. Who are we going? Els has got 6-4 MVG. And Vinny, I think, has missed the letter, but we'll also say MVG in that one. Chat room have gone for Van Gerwen then. Match number 3 is an all-English clash between Chris Dobey and Nathan Aspinall. Not quite at the same stage of a must-win as Peter Wright, but Dobey will want to get points on the board to keep within touching distance and not get cut off from that top pack this early. Nathan Aspinall, 3rd place at the minute, will not want Michael Smith, Van Gerwen or Gerwen Price or anyone around him really stealing a march on him with a bad run of form. A tight game I'm expecting in this one. Aspinall probably, when he's in rhythm and in full flow, don't think it'll be an issue for Dobey. He is one of the slower players that might have the odd readjustment that makes it that little bit more difficult to play in a rhythm, which is how I associate Chris Dobey's game. However, I'm going to say Dobey gets points on the board next week. I'm going Chris Dobey. I think he wins this one 6-4. Has to get out in front early, though. Cannot be chasing the game. If he is chasing the game, I think he will struggle. But I'm going Dobey to win this one 6-4. Matthew has got Asp 6-2. Preston has got Asp 6-4. Els has got 6-2 Asp. Bob has got Asp 6-3. And Cal has got Asp 6-5. So I'm the only one going Dobey then. Right. We'll see. We'll see you all next week. No, I won't be on the show next week. Someone else will be on the show next week. But remember this moment. And in the final game of next week in the quarterfinal stage, it will be Michael Smith against Dimitri van den Bergh, the current world champion, ranked 2nd in the league at the moment, against van den Bergh, who is in 5th. How do we all see this one going, guys? I don't really recall Michael Smith's injury being too much of an issue tonight. He didn't seem to hold at any point. I may be wrong, but it didn't seem to be a major factor in commentary or anybody noticing it or pointing out going, oh, there he is. He's hurting. He's holding the wrist again a little bit more. He just seemed to get on with it. I'm going to say Smith edges it out 6-4 for me. That's Ryan Marcus. I just think he looks great at the moment. You could easily reel off another couple of night wins at the minute without really putting the Premier League on note either. They're not on watch. It's just, right, Marcus Smith just rocked up and done it again. I just think he's got that effortless about him right now. And that's good to see from him. Into the chat room predictions for the final one. Bob has got Dimmy 6-3. Matthew has gone Smith 6-4. Els has got Smith 6-5. Calcal's got Dimmy 6-5. Bob mentioned Smith's injury. Preston says he'll let me know on Twitter. Yeah, thanks. Elka's got Smith 6-3 and Preston has got Smith 6-4. Yeah, look, I don't know what the injury is. He's not actually stated it. He just said he's hurt. He was ill. Do you know what? No, he was ill and it swelled up. It was a side effect of the flu. So it might have just been stiffness or soreness or sleeping on it funny or any one of those combination of factors with a bit of swelling. I'm sure it'll be all right long term at the moment. If it wasn't, I think we'd know about it. But that doesn't mean that's completely beyond the realms of possibility right now. So there we have it then, folks. That is your night 5 Fallout bar from Exeter. Apologies, it was just myself. As I said, a lot of the team, varying different reasons, just completely wiped out this evening. But we did make sure we'd get a show on for you guys. Massive thank you to everybody in the chat room for interacting. You guys made it so much easier for myself to just sit here and talk directly at you guys. Reminder, we're back tomorrow to stream for the UK Open from just before 11 a.m. is the plan to go live. We're going to talk about all the outside boards. We know you can watch every single one through PDC TV, but not everybody has that. Keep an eye on all the boards if you want to watch one particular board at once. Just make sure you sync us up with what you see on those live streams, because we will be using Dart Connect data as well as what we see on screen. So that might be a little bit different if you don't want any spoilers or anything like that. But the rest of it, pretty standard for what we do here at Online Dart. So if you do want to watch those interviews in full, by the way, that Chris Dobey conversation and Michael Van Gerwen, however full that I don't really want to be or I just want to get to mine, it can actually be, head over to our YouTube channel or stay exactly where you are and pick that one up. And if you haven't had your fix of live darts, head over to the Motor Super Series YouTube channel or Sporty Stuff TV to catch up with that session of Motor Super Series darts. Thanks very much for joining me, folks. I really do appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow for the UK Open.